Hi there everyone, welcome back to the Art of Business English. Andrew Ambrosius for episode 120. Now in today's episode, we're going to be looking at 15 noun-to-noun collocations that you can use in business. So if you don't know what collocations are, simply put, they are words that naturally go together in any language and they can create, like expressions or meanings. So the words individually may not mean the same thing as when they're put together, okay? And sometimes we have strong collocations and other times we have weaker collocations. Weaker collocations mean that, more than one word could collocate. So if we take, the noun photo, you can only take a photo. The verb take collocates with photo. You can't make a photo or do a photo. So that's quite a strong collocation. However, if we take the noun like break, like to rest, take a break, you can use the verb to take a break or to have a break. All right, so that is what we would classify as a weaker collocation. Okay, so collocations are like this. These words that naturally go together, and you need to know them because collocations will often lead to making your English sound much more fluent and native. Typically, people collocate words wrong, and this makes them sound really less native. It's very common for people to put the wrong word in a collocation, and this, the people will understand you, but in many cases, it will make you sound, forced or less native. So it's really a good idea to work on improving your knowledge of collocations because they are going to help you expand your vocabulary and at the same time make you sound much more native and fluent at English. So with that being said, today I'm going to show you 15 noun-to-noun collocations that you can use for business. Now there are many types of combinations, you can have adjectives and nouns and etc., verbs and nouns. But today we're going to be focusing on noun-to-noun collocations, and these 15 are actually taken from my ebook, which is entitled 500 Business English Collocations for Everyday Use, which you can check out, and I'll link up to that in this episode. As always, I'm going to give you the noun-to-noun collocation, and then I'll give you a sample sentence so that you understand it within context. So let's dive in. So the first one on my list is market forces. So these are things that have an impact or, a force on markets. So let me give you an example sentence. He predicted that market forces will continue to reform the current system. So there's an example of market forces. Some examples of market forces would be, like the price of petrol is a market force. The increase or the decrease of the price of petrol would put different pressures on certain sectors of the economy. So we can classify that as a market force. Another example is sales figures. Sales figures. So he declined to give sales figures. So that means the person being asked refused to reveal the sales figures. So your sales figures are, the numbers that show what you've sold. Okay, so this is, the actual financial numbers on what you've sold. So some people are really happy to share their sales figures with people, and others are less happy to do that and really consider that to be quite private information, unless of course the company is a public company. Okay, let's look at the next one, which is customer service. Customer service, another noun-to-noun collocation. And of course, customer service is the way that we, that we interact with our customers and try and provide them with the best service possible. Well, we should always try and provide them with the best service possible. So an example, good customer service is one of the main reasons customers keep coming back. Exactly. If you provide good customer service, then your customers will keep coming back and they become repeat clients and continue to purchase products and services from you. Okay, let's look at the next one, which is a price war. Now, a price war is when two companies start, fighting over who can offer the lowest prices, and they get into a price war. A price war can be very destructive for an industry or for the companies who are engaged in a price war, but it's also very positive for the consumer because they get good service at a continually cheaper price. So that can be great for the customer, not always great for the company. So the best time to book your plane ticket is when airlines are having a price war. And I'm sure many airlines will be offering very cheap flights now as they are actually grounded at the moment. Let's look at the next one, which is brand name. And the art of business English is a brand name. So that's, the name that you attach to your brand. So many people will only buy brand name products. Yes, some people are very loyal and very, very passionate about the brands they follow. And if it doesn't have a brand name, they're not interested in buying it because that, with a good brand name, we have a perception of quality and there's a certain amount of trust that is built up between the consumer and that particular brand. Okay, the next one is business model. So let's review the success other companies have had using a business model like this one. So a business model is when, the way that you structure your business. So for example, a franchise system could be a business model. And another business model could be that you are completely online. You actually don't have a physical store. You have an online store only. Okay, let's look at the next one. Customer base. Now, your customer base are, the people who purchase your products continuously. So those are, the people who are, your customers, and they're not necessarily new ones. They're ones that, continually purchase or buy from you. So the sporty design of this watch will appeal to a young customer base. So that's maybe your target audience is a younger customer base. So these are the people who are going to be purchasing from you or who purchase from you. All right, let's look at the next one. Market leader. Everyone wants to be a market leader. A market leader is obviously a company that is seen as a leader who is someone who is at the forefront of the markets. So we must work much harder this year to maintain our position as the market leader. It's really great to be the market leader, but obviously when you're at the top, it's very competitive and people are always trying to bring you down and rise to the top themselves. So let's look at the next one, product launch. So a product launch is obviously when a company decides to introduce a new product into the market. So they launch a product, and product launches can be quite spectacular events, especially, for example, if you're used to seeing an Apple product launch. Whenever they launched a new iPhone, it was always quite a spectacular event. So it seems to the best time for a product launch of beverages is in April, just before summer begins. Another one on my list is advertising agency. So obviously an advertising agency or a marketing agency, these are the places that you would go to because they specialize in advertising or promotion of products or marketing of products. So the advertising agency rang up $1.4 billion in yearly sales. So to ring up sales means, to increase and add up over time. So if you ring up $1.4 billion in yearly sales, it means that over the course of the year, you have created a total amount of sales at $1.4 billion. So an advertising agency is the noun-to-noun collocation, and that means a specialized, place where there are employees who will help you with your advertising, so whether that be online, offline, or on TV, whatever. Okay, now the next one is advertising campaign. So an advertising agency will help you create an advertising campaign. So the recent advertising campaign has had a market effect on sales. Now, a market effect on sales means it's had a quite positive or specific effect on sales. So a market it's like pronounced, meaning it's had a a significant effect on increasing sales. So the recent advertising campaign has had a marked effect on sales. So that's what we want from our advertising campaigns. Advertising campaign is this, the whole system or the whole process that you put in place to promote a product or service. It can range from, starting offline and moving it right onto online. So right across the board from your social media, right down to, ads in your local newspaper or ads in the street, on buses, whatever. Okay. Another one is age discrimination. Okay. So age discrimination occurs when people are discriminated against on the basis of their age. And typically this happens to people who are older because they are seen as maybe not as valid in the workplace as someone who's younger in many cases. So they are therefore discriminated against on their age. People say, I don't want to hire this person because they're too old. Or conversely, you could be discriminated against on the basis of your age in that, because you're young, you are not paid well because people think that because you're young, they can take advantage of you and, get you to work a lot and not pay you much, okay? So an example would be many employees have recognized that age discrimination is unfair. So unfair is, it's not the right thing to do. Okay, another one is balance sheet. So the balance sheet is, how much money you've got on hand. So this is related to your financial statements, okay? So Rolls-Royce needed a strong balance sheet. Now to have a strong balance sheet means that, you've got a lot of cash on hand and you don't have necessarily, you're not servicing a lot of debt. So if you want to, a lot of companies, when they want to sell the company, they need to create a strong balance sheet so that the company looks really in a positive financial position before sale. Okay, another one is bank loan. So a bank loan is when you get some money lent to you from the bank. The bank gives you money with an interest payment, obviously. A bank loan helped to set him up in business. So when we want to start a new business, obviously we generally need to get a loan from the bank because otherwise we have to invest our own money. Well, let's look then at the last one on my list today, which is sales report. And, a sales report is something that your boss may ask you to prepare when there's a meeting. So a sales report would be that you would report on giving, the numbers on the sales from a specific period. So an example might be, don't forget to include the figures or last year's figures in your sales report, meaning you need to include the numbers, like the profit, the loss, or in a sales report, it would be that basically the turnover, how many products were sold and what were the margins, things like that. So a sales report is useful to management to see how effective, a period has been for the number of sales that has occurred, what was sold, what margins were made on specific products, and things like that. Okay, so those are my 15 noun-to-noun collocations, which I'm sure you'll notice are all based in business and super helpful for you, to start using in your daily vocabulary. I'm sure that there's at least one or two of them that you can put into practice tomorrow. So if you are interested in expanding your knowledge of collocations and your knowledge of vocabulary, then you should definitely grab a copy of my 500 Business English Collocations for Everyday Use. That is over at the Art of Business English website, and it's incredible value at only $4.99. And it does include all of the pronunciation and the example sentences so that you can get the perfect English accent going and pronounce those words perfectly. Well, that's it for this week's lesson. I hope you found it very useful and very insightful, and I hope you're all safe and well, and I will see you all next week for another episode of the Art of Business English. Bye for now.